Three, two, one. That's one big pile of shit. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Thursdays with Moire. And you're wondering why I didn't put much effort into the intro? That's because not a lot of effort was put into most of the movies we're talking about tonight. I'm your host, Ian Taylor. Joining me tonight are my wonderful friends, co workers, co filmmakers, co musicians, co everything, collaborators. First off, Devin King, as always, of course, and American filmmaker join us yet again, Mr. Beason, aka Stephen Beason. How are you guys doing tonight?
Howdy, howdy. I'm doing well.
Doing great. We're back on a Tuesday.
We're back
Finally came in full
I
circle.
mean,
this weekend.
what? We'll get this schedule down eventually. I did tell Ian what could make this work is if we just uploaded the episode every Thursday, and then maybe it's Thursday somewhere. I don't know.
It'll probably be Thursday by the time this actually goes up, so it'll probably work out in the end.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair.
It takes about 2 days.
All right.
That's some big brain shit.
Yeah.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
Good segue.
we
That's
we
an
have
amazing
a
segue.
great show planned for you tonight. Earlier in the month, for those who follow the podcast, we looked at the Sight and Sound poll, which was the top 3 greatest films of all time, in quotation marks. We looked at, film is a subjective medium, but we looked at Citizen Kane, we looked at Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, and we looked at a very controversial French art house film that's kind of ruffling some feathers for its recent reappraisal, which was John Dielman. And with it being January, the theme this month was kind of, death and rebirth, life and rebirth. It's a new year, new me, new, mental illness. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah,
a phoenix rising from the ashes, but instead of ashes, it's a big pile of shit.
yeah, and so no, this was the big joke. We looked at the greatest movies of all time for the first half of the month. Now it's time for the rebirth, and we're looking at some
Grade A premium.
great
Uh,
question mark movies.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
Movies
Abs-
of all time. Let's put it that way.
they are
Uh,
certainly movies of all time. And
we're going to
what
be
better?
looking.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
No, I was gonna give a brief introduction of the films we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna be
Go for
looking
it.
at John Waters' Pink Flamingos. We're gonna be looking at Dan Aykroyd's Nothing But Trouble, and later on in the episode, we're gonna be looking at a cinematic abortion, which is movie 43. So,
This isn't the
wow,
first
what a
cinematic abortion we've watched. Uh,
oh no, we've watched quite a few.
Yeah, we watched Blonde.
it became
There
it
is an
became
abortion in Blonde.
Yeah, that's
Don't
what I
get me
meant.
started. Don't
I
get me
could count
started. That
on
movie is
one or
getting
two
so
hands.
unfairly.
Unfairly.
Anyway,
All right.
yes. I'm gonna have to get Daryl on because he and I are both unironically defending this movie, and it's been wild. Speaking of wild,
Oh
Yep.
Devin,
boy.
would you like to take us away here?
Sure thing. So, I thought we'd start off this episode with the film that arguably started it all, although it wasn't the first movie that John Waters had made. And if you don't know who John Waters is, he is a artist, filmmaker, famously kind of a filmmaker of these transgressive cult films. Pink Flamingos wasn't his first, but it was by far his most notable and successful. Um, that really launched him to stardom. This absolute, pencil stash, shit-eating grin, gen of a human being, um, made arguably one of the most grotesque films of all time. Yet it is so well regarded. I think the way that he marketed this film back in the day um, was part of its success. But I'll give you just a little bit more background on John Waters. Basically, he got into filmmaking because his parents bought him an 8mm camera to stay out of jail, to give him a creative outlet. And he was very intrigued and drawn to these films that really sat outside the medium, like horror films and other kind of experimental films that really pushed the boundaries, which was something that he was very proud of doing throughout his career. Um, and I remember first hearing about this guy from the Simpsons episode Homer's Phobia. He's transcended the mainstream that much, going from movies like Multiple Maniacs and Crybaby and Pink Flamingos to appearing on The Simpsons, and how he transcended those two worlds is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Um, considering just how well regarded it is. Like this film is up for preservation by the Library of Congress, and it's also in the Criterion Collection. And it literally is famous for a scene where Divine, the main character, eats dog shit at the very end. Spoilers. Um,
And that is not simulated. That is real
it's
dog
the
shit.
real thing.
No,
Yes.
no,
No, it
you're
actually
kidding.
is. Ian.
I'm
You're
not
fucking with
kidding.
me.
No,
They literally
that is
followed the dog
real
around for
dog
three
shit.
hours and got that shot with the last bits of light in the day because they wanted it to be real. And you
Hey
can
What
tell
the
guys,
just how
fuck?
watery and gross it is. Like
Okay, this
it's
was consensual, right? Like, I
oh,
just
100%.
okay,
Oh
thank
yeah,
God.
no.
It
No,
wasn't
See,
no
just
one
like,
was
hey, eat
forced to
this
do
ice
anything they
cream.
didn't want to do. They were
Yes.
all just fucking nuts, and that's what makes this film so endearing. Like it's so charmingly debaucherous. I cannot think of more apt words to describe it, but it's like they're doing some gross shit, but it can't help but smile, and it's just so endearing at how grotesque it is. I don't know how else to explain it, but like it knows exactly what it's doing, and accomplishes it. It's a perfect like satire. Although John Waters very much deeply admired Andy Warhol and that whole art scene, this was almost his like lampooning of that, and I'm mind boggled at how well regarded this film is and how enduring it is, despite its content. So
hey
well,
yeah,
guys,
and
guys,
here's the
guys.
thing.
Hey,
yeah,
Ted.
Dad, you're saying.
Hi. I don't know if I'm going to be on later, so would it be possible if I could just give my quick thoughts on movie 43, and then if I can get on, we can go into a little bit more deeper later on?
Yeah, sure. Real quick, this is our good friend and character artist Tad Brock. Everybody, Tad Brock, say hello.
Hello.
All right, quick thoughts on movie 43. Go. Go, 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 go. Tad?
And that's my thoughts on movie 43. Thank you for watching.
Get the fuck out of here. I love you, Ted.
Get the fuck out of
Get
here.
the fuck out of here! Yay!
Get this guy out of here. Oh my god.
Thanks for stopping
one
by.
out of 10 stars. Thank you.
Hey, see you
Okay.
later.
Okay. That was very apropos in the moment, actually.
I was just
no.
like, Dad, you saying something? Nope, that was my review.
Tad, we love you, but I'm. Oh man.
No, so John Waters, I kind of want to jump in here. Devin, you mentioned the Simpsons. John Waters is literally he makes a cameo in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
He's a Simpsons character in real life.
No, he is. I mean, but it's fascinating to see, and I mean, I'm gonna make a bold statement here. I don't think this movie belongs in this trilogy.
I agree.
I think there's something to this movie. And I don't know what it is, but there's something just absolutely fascinating. People talk about watching a train wreck and you can't look away. Like this is this is that. Like it's phenomenal, and it's like it's so much more than the sum of its parts. And I think there is some context necessary. So like this was made as a direct response to the movie Deep Throat. So I don't know if you guys are familiar, if you've seen like Boogie Nights by Paul
Yep.
Thomas Anderson. Deep Throat was one of the first, like, when pornography got huge, and it's like suddenly it's legal in the United States. It's chic, it's in vogue, like everybody's taking their girlfriend to go see a porno movie.
Like Travis Bickle. Which...
Exactly. Lots of people go to these movies. Um, no, but like Deep Throat was huge. And I think John Waters was coming at this from the perspective of like, okay, you can get away with, a girl giving a guy a blowjob in a movie. Like, let's take that a little further. And it's just this, like, you just get the sense that, like, every single shot, there's this guy standing behind the camera with this, for lack of a better term, shit-eating grin. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I fucking loved it. I thought this movie's great. It's so...
I'm so conflicted because there are parts of this movie I absolutely love, and then there are parts of this movie where I don't know if too far is the right word, but more so I just didn't know what they were going for. Like there are parts of it where I think the parts that worked for me the best was when it was like leaning into its satirical nature and kind of being more clever with like its dialogue and like its over the top characters and strange moments in the plot more than just its straight outright gross moments, because those moments to me are more like entertaining in a movie like this. I think it works to the advantage of like a really kitschy low budget production if you kind of lean into like the absurd story like a little bit more. But there were a lot of moments that like every time it was doing something brilliant, it would always just do something to kind of pull me out of it. And I can't say I hate it, and yeah, it definitely does not deserve to be on here because it like you said, Stephen, it is onto something. It does have something to say and it does have a personality to it. Either or not that's a personality of debauchery is up for debate, I suppose, but it's a personality at least, and it's very genuine.
Come on, where else are you gonna see a movie where a man's prolapsed asshole sings along to Surfing Bird?
Oh yeah,
that was the best scene.
There was an article that was going around saying that the contortionist, which is very I like the use of that term for in that context,
I mean,
had passed away. Like, man, what a living legend! Like his image is forever burned on his celluloid.
Oh my god!
May he rest in peace.
And I think it's worth. I think it's also worth mentioning. Like Devin kind of brought up the whole like Andy Warhol thing, and it's like this is John Waters and the Dream Landers. It's like an artistic group, and it's like the woman who, we haven't even gotten into the plot, but there's one character who's yeah, exactly. There's an older woman who sits in a playpen for babies the entire movie, and she's really passionate about eggs. And in this universe, there's the egg man. Yeah, instead of a milkman, you have a guy who delivers eggs, which, I mean, God, with the price of eggs these days, I wish we still had that. I wish that was a thing. But no, so that woman was just like a bartender that worked at a bar where John Waters would go to drink. Like, there's this very, like, it's not even quite cinema verite, but it's just like you can tell
like
that. It kind of is, but it's like these are people who have nothing to gain and or nothing to lose and like absolutely everything to gain. Like that's what this is. This is a bunch of people who are like hungry to make a splash. They want to make a statement. It's so punk rock. I mean, that's like the best word I can think of.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's just a bunch of these crazy people getting together, finding out what a camera is and like, hey, you know what? Screw it. Let's go make a movie. It's very charming
And
in
I
that
think,
sense, and that's my
and
favorite
I
aspect
think,
about it by far.
I think those movies, maybe not this one specifically, because this was my first time viewing this. But I love the hell out of movies like Clerks, like Reservoir Dogs, like Evil Dead 2, like, Robert Rodriguez early works, where it's like, here's someone who just picked up a camera and was like, let's fucking do this. Like, and I think this embodies that almost as much or more than any of the films I just mentioned. Like, there's something so transgressive about this. And it's weird. I mean, we're talking about like the punk rock sort of just like, ragtag group of people and like, oh, hey, this is just a bartender. Like, so there's a scene. Kind of
I feel like every scene could start with "so there's a scene."
Oh no, exactly. So there's a minor subplot where one character, he flashes women with a German sausage tied around his dick.
and he's just like, oh, yeah, I'm not flashing anybody. It's just my sausage. like
No,
those.
so he does this,
Okay.
and then the women get up and they run away scared, and he takes their purse. And then there's a big joke, where this woman flashes her dick, and it's like, oh, he's outmatched.
And he runs off scared, which shows
Yeah,
he's
no.
not all the filth and trash he wants to be.
Well, and so what I thought was crazy about that was actually a friend of John Waters. She was just a pre-op trans woman who this was like her last day with her dick.
Let me show it off a bit.
Yeah.
Let me give me one last chance to show one off. Yeah. I think the best scenes are like that, where just like, like that is hilarious because like scenes like that feel like they have more of a point. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like I'm a huge detective fan. I'm a huge fan of like garbage crime stories. So I think easily the best parts about this movie are when they're leaning into like a satire of like private investigator, or kind of like these. It's almost like a weird like mix of like the blaxploitation genre and like a dirty, filthy porno, and I think those aspects work the best. Just that whole news reporter scene where they're like, what do you think we should do? It's like, legalize murder, legalize the cannibalism. And the news reporter is just like, oh, what? Or when she's just like holding a gun out, it's like, you stand accused of assholism. It's like, what's that even mean? What is assholism? How do you arrest somebody for that?
That's my favorite line in the whole movie.
But scenes like that, I'm just like, okay, like, I get what you're going through here. But then there are other scenes where it's like they're just gnawing off of raw bones for no reason and eating some dog shit. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're doing here besides just fucking around.
I think I think that's part of the point. I think it is kind of. Well, see, here's the thing, and again, we've kind of danced around the quote unquote plot here, but basically, Divine is a rather large drag queen, larger
played by
than life.
Harris Glenn. Is it Milstead? Yeah, Harris Glenn Milstead. Rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. What a. I started to say what a Chad. I don't know if that's politically correct, but
mad lad.
But yeah. So Divine is a drag queen who is the filthiest person alive, and there are two people who are trying to usurp the title. They own an illegal operation where they impregnate hitchhikers against their will and sell the babies to lesbian couples. There's a really weird sex scene involving a chicken.
I may have skipped
pretty
that part.
much,
I'll be honest.
Like, just imagine the most disturbing shit you could ever think of. That's in this movie. And I think here's the thing, because there's another movie that we're going to be talking about later tonight that tries to do that, where it's like, let's just throw all this offensive, edgy shit at the screen. And I think the difference here is like, I feel like this knows what it's doing. I think it's more tongue in cheek.
Yeah, the
I think it
difference is
has
that's less
more.
cynical. Is a
It
big
is
part of it.
less cynical, and
Yeah.
that's so weird to say given the context of like the film itself. But it's like I think I don't know. We kind of keep coming back to it, but it's like there's something here. I don't know exactly what it is.
But it
I
sure is
mean,
something.
but it sure is something. I mean, God, I mean, where else are you gonna see like the fucking scene where they're licking the furniture and then the furniture rejects the other filthy people?
That was.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Like,
Well, that's kind of what makes it work. Is that it's like, even though I'm not
It-
big on like all of the jokes, like it makes it less boring. It makes it less boring when you don't know
no, it
what's going to
does.
happen
It is.
next.
I
I'll give it
also
that.
really like the writing as terrible. Well, no, the writing actually has a lot of wit to it, but it's just like these ongoing monologues that no one would actually say in real life, and then the acting for it is so over the top and wooden and performative, and it's
Oh,
just like it's
I
its
mean,
own thing.
Yeah, it's like something off
it's
a
very
blaxploitation
campy.
movie.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is very campy, and I think that's part of like the sort of more queer elements of it. Like it's very over the top, like a drag performance might be, and I think it benefits from that. I think that kind of helps its edge. Like God, this is like I'm almost speechless even trying to review this thing.
Tell me about it.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
it, I just wanted to say real quick, and I'm gonna get this out the way because it's one of my favorite movies. And Devin, I think you already know what I'm gonna mention. A little film called Greener Grass. Jocelyn
Oh yeah.
DeBoer, Don Webby, who both directed and starred in the movie, listed John Waters and this film in particular as a main inspiration for Greener Grass. And I could definitely see it, but Greener Grass kind of took an approach I kind of liked a bit more, where it dialed back the weirdness just a little bit to kind of focus on the satirical elements more, because that's what I found like the most funny out
I
of
feel
this
like
movie. And
I could see it having an aesthetic influence. I don't think it has any of the edge or the and not to disrespect Greener Grass, it does feel like a very safe Adult Swim kind of rendition of something that reminds you of this film. But there's nothing replicating it.
I don't know. I just feel like it's I don't want to say smarter or wittier, because this film definitely knows
I
what it is, but it takes an approach that just works with me, resonates with me a lot better. Whereas Pink
okay.
Flamingos, I was like, well, that was wild and
I
kind of
I
fun,
think
I
it's got a
guess. Yeah,
I think it's got a completely different motivation behind it than this film. This film is
that's true. That's
yeah.
true. But I was just
No,
kind of
and
thinking about that in the back of my head because they mentioned this film as an influence.
no, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the motivation is entirely different. I mean, I feel like it's important to kind of like make the difference in saying that like there's so much that we really wouldn't have without this film. And it's crazy to think that, but it's like you go to the movie theater and you go watch, fucking Jackass 3D. And it's like, does that exist without John Waters?
No,
Does,
yeah, it does.
I mean,
Does
does,
greener grass exist without John Waters?
I
well,
No.
would
no, I
say
mean, think about like Fear Factor. That was on TV for years and years with Joe Rogan, and it's like people were eating horse intestines, and it's like the Jackass guys were drinking bull semen and all this, and it's like
Jesus.
19. God, when did this movie come out? 1972. Was that right?
yep,
Yeah.
72.
Predates everything. Dog shit in the mouth. I mean, what a
Chad.
picture perfect finish.
What a Chad.
And
Yeah.
did you guys see the clip where he's defending the chicken scene?
I have not. No, I
John
kind of need to
Waters
So
has a
see that.
very entertaining personality, so I can only imagine.
Oh God, I did see it. Yeah, I did actually. Now that you mention it.
yeah, he's like that animal activist have been after him for years over the chicken scene, and his justification is that he bought it from a a farmer that would have killed the chicken anyway, and he thinks that he gave it the best time of its life before they ultimately ate it for dinner. And I'm like, mm,
At least he got a
it's
quick
kind of
way. Is that basically?
That chicken gets to live on in cinema.
Yeah,
I'm.
I mean, what
It's
a
it,
legacy.
it is grotesque, but it's kind of the point. It's
No, and I think, and there's a film that John Waters did later on called Cecil B. Demented. Um,
mhm.
and there's like a whole monologue similar to like what you were talking about, Devin, where it's like they're talking about like being gay or being queer used to be this like underground thing, and it was like dirty and it was our thing, and then it went mainstream and it's like we had to act out or something, and it's to like maintain relevancy. And I feel like that's kind of what Pink Flamingos was. I think it was like this thing where it's like, you know, oh, like Deep Throat is mainstream now, so we have to go out and like top that, and it's just, I don't know, there's something. God, this film is, it's so wild, and it's like I can't stress enough like how important this film is, like in terms of film history. And it's so weird to say that given its content.
I think this film wouldn't exist if it weren't for films like Un Chien de Loup, and particularly just American culture in a nutshell, or Baltimore. Like this seems to be very like singular and
Well, they
product
did.
of this.
Did any of you guys see there was a clip of audience reactions after
Oh,
people saw
I can
Pink
imagine.
Flamingo? And
Oh yeah, that's how
one
they advertised the movie, I think.
and one guy said, "I think John Waters has his pulse, or has his finger on the pulse of
Yeah.
America, Middle America." He's like, he's got his thumb firmly inside its asshole.
that's a that's an interesting response. Yeah.
That feels like 100% true. Like what an astute observation.
Yeah.
Well, it is one
Is
of the
there
movies of all
anything?
And,
time.
and like I
Yes.
said, this has been preserved by the Library of Congress and is on the Criterion Collection. This is some high art trash, and um, yeah, I recommend it. I remember first coming across it, or at least first finally watching it when I found it on VHS in a thrift store, right next to Ghost Dog Way the Samurai. And I'm like, some former cinephile like got rid of some gems here, so I picked them up. Um,
We should talk about Ghost Dog, unironically.
oh yeah, it's a great
That's
movie,
a great
completely
film.
different
Yeah.
reasons.
For very different reasons.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
nobody eats dog shit in that film. Just disclaimer, minor spoiler.
Uh,
And watching this
well,
film for the first time just on like a grainy VHS tape was something else.
Makes sense.
yeah. Wow.
What would you rate it?
Rating.
6.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if I can ever watch it again, except for with friends and being partially drunk.
You
But
have
it's
to
a
be in the. You have to be in the right mood, I think.
yeah, that's fair. Don't eat anything while watching it. I made that mistake and
I
regretted every
I'd
minute
say
of
this film like
it.
predates like shock websites. Like it's shock cinema, but it's got heart to it, which is weird to say.
It's got its
It it it,
charms. Yeah.
it's shock cinema with a heart. I I'd say is what grounds it. This gets a very enthusiastic 6.9.
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow,
Damn.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into
It's
some real shit.
No, honestly like oh fuck it, I'll give it a 9.6.
Oh,
Hey,
come on.
there we go.
Wow,
All right. All right.
All right.
I'm updating my
Well,
store.
I already did. I already did. Don't worry. It's done.
okay. Fuck it. Give it a 9. I'm joining in. Ian, update the score.
Already done.
All right. Nope. Nothing but trouble. It's anything but. Uh, so 1991 is the year. Demi Moore is hot off of the Oscar Award nominated or Academy Award nominated film Ghost. Dan Aykroyd has had a couple of very successful hit movies. Mind you, all of them were with other producers who kind of reined him in.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. No, there's actually a very funny clip where John Landis is talking about receiving the very first draft of the Blues Brothers, and it's like 800 pages long or something.
Jesus.
Anyway, so during Ghostbusters, Chevy Chase declined to be in that film and readily signed up to be in another horror comedy from Dan Aykroyd. So a little bit a little bit of context here. So Dan Aykroyd has done two very successful films. He's done the Blues Brothers. He's done Ghostbusters. The studio is basically ready to write him a blank check. They know that he's proven himself. They know that he has a proven track record. So he goes to Ivan Reitman. He goes to John Landis. He goes to some of his friends who helped realize his other projects, who took his 1,000-page draft of all these other films, cut it down, and made some pretty good movies that were critically and financially successful. And he pitches what would become Nothing But Trouble, but was actually originally titled Valkenvania.
Of course it was.
All of them tell him, I don't see what you're going for here. Why don't you do it? So, like I said, the studio believed in him. They gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted. Also worth mentioning that during the time this was going on, Brian De Palma was taking up a lot of the studio's time and energy because Bonfire of the Vanities, which we should talk about at some point as well, was going way over budget, way over schedule. It was a very troubled production, and so everybody was kind of just leaving Dan Aykroyd alone, unchecked. And that is how we got Nothing But Trouble. What is it about? Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. Chevy Chase is a financier, a very successful financial advisor. He is a financial advisor to a pair of Brazilian billionaires. They are referred to as the Brazilianaires. That is literally all of the character that they have. They're rich and they're Brazilian. So he's their personal finance guru. He runs into Demi Moore, who is also very rich and very successful, at a party. For whatever reason, she doesn't have a car, but she wants to borrow his, and she promises she'll get it back to him. And he says, no, I'll just drive you to this woman he's never met before. They wind up going on a road trip where they get stopped in a Transylvanian-like Munsters kind of weird town that was built on a coal mine. Dan Aykroyd plays a monster man with a penis for a nose. John Candy is his, what is it, daughter? Or there's like John Candy in drag. John Candy also plays the cop of the town because Dan Aykroyd's dick-nosed monster is the justice of the peace, who Chevy Chase and Demi Moore have to stand before for their crime of speeding, which is never brought up again in the entirety of the film. Chevy Chase has to marry John Candy in drag. There are two giant, greasy, mutant diaper babies that play cards with Demi Moore. The Digital Underground with Tupac Shakur shows up. This was a movie directed by Cocaine. Dear God, this was I take full responsibility for us watching this. I have no regrets. What did you boys think about it?
Well, here's the thing. Like, it's kind of funny you mentioned that Dan Aykroyd was reined in a lot, because as I was watching the movie, I was kind of thinking, you know what? There's like enough fun ideas that could maybe work for a skit on Saturday Night Live, or maybe even like a short story segment on Creep Show or like the ABCs of horror. It does not work as a full movie at all. At first, I was like, you know what? This isn't quite as bad as people are saying it is. Like, it's not that funny, but like there's some humorous ideas, and like the set design is really cool, and there's some fun concepts. But the more it went along, the more it just drove a stake through my heart and just took.
Well,
if there was ever an excuse for why a comedy should never be this long without like changing up the humor in any way or making consistent characters, Nothing But Trouble is a very, very strong argument for that. Isn't as bad as critics say it is? No, but it certainly isn't good.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I didn't hate it.
I kind of did.
No, I didn't though. I mean,
it's not as bad as people say it is, but it's just a complete mess.
The right one. It is a mess, but it's like oh, they tried, you know.
I guess
they certainly did something. I don't know if they tried.
One actor out of 4 tried. Chevy Chase and Demi Moore looked like they didn't want to be there.
And I think it's very fitting or revealing that any of the people that he took this to didn't know what he was going for. I don't know what he was going for either.
That's a very good question.
Well, I saw what he did. I saw what he dressed up as. I don't know what he is satirizing. if that's what he's doing, I don't know.
It feels like he was trying to do like a Goosebumps or like a
Creep Show kind of thing.
Creep Show kind of thing, but also there's like a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a little bit of like The Hills Have Eyes.
There's like a zest or a flavor of it. There's an elements of it, but it doesn't take it there really. It's just sort of like this really bizarre out there kind of singular character of this of this lawmaker who's completely off his rocker and completely speaks in a foreign kind of language compared to everyone else. But it also does feel like a weird product of just American culture. I don't know how to else to explain it, but it is from like a Canadian's perspective, which is another like weird kind of augmentation on top of that.
So you're saying you guys take responsibility for it, is what I'm hearing.
No, you already did that first. You already did that first. No takesy backsies.
I take responsibility for us watching it and reviewing it. I mean, this did come from you guys, is what I'm hearing.
No.
Well, it did come from Dan Aykroyd, who is Canadian.
Yeah.
So that much I can say. Also, he started Crystal Skull Vodka. So that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a plus. But yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head where it's like it has a lot of fun ideas, but it doesn't know what to do with any of them. Like take like Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein, for example. Like, yeah, it's a silly, weird comedy, but it had a consistent, clear goal of being this loving parody and homage to Frankenstein. Blazing Saddles is a loving homage and satire of like racist culture in the West. Like all of the great comedies, even to this day, like take something like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That movie has a clear purpose and satirical goal, and it's going somewhere with its story. It's a genuinely satisfying mystery. But this is just a bunch of voices just shouting in the air, shouting nonsense, and hoping that one voice captures the audience, and it just never does.
There might be an element here which has been more popular lately, and it's rich people getting away with dumb shit, or maybe it's trying to usurp that. Like, he stops these people, these rich people from like speeding or kind of tearing through their town, but then it just gets weird from there. Like,
on that note, I mean, Ian, would you rather watch this or Triangle of Sadness?
Oh, this movie's shorter, so I'd probably watch this.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I know
Where
you
and
weren't
this
a
film
fan
feels
of
like
that.
a little more original, whereas Triangle of Sadness was just another
Mhm.
rich, bad, quasi Lord of the Flies movie that I don't think
Ooh.
is as original as people are giving it credit for.
Well,
But this movie
here's
felt like more ambitious and weird, but it's just not funny. I think that's the worst part
well,
about this
so
movie is that it
I
just isn't that
I
funny.
I mean, I will say this. I think there's so much of this that I do wonder, like, what was production like on this? Because there's a couple of scenes where, like, the dick nose prosthetic is more prominent, and it's like you actually see that it's a dick. And I'm
It's
wondering,
there for just a couple of shots, and it's deliberately meant to throw you off.
no, but then in the other shots, it doesn't look quite like that. So I'm
No,
wondering if,
that's what I'm saying. It was a swappable thing, and for certain shots, they swap in the more dick-looking one.
but do you think that was the plan originally, or do you think
No,
someone was like
it's an
on
intention. That
set?
is 100% an intentional gag.
I
Like
agree.
No,
they
no,
had to
I
create a
know
separate prosthetic
what
dick
no,
nose
no, what I'm what
for
I'm
that
saying
gag.
is, do you think that was the plan from the beginning of
To make it a
production,
gag.
or do
Yeah.
you think somebody turned to Dan Aykroyd, like watching the dailies, and was like, "Hey, your nose kind of looks like a dick," and he was like,
No,
"Oh
no.
my god."
As funny as that sounds, I think this is 100% Dan Aykroyd's fault and
Yeah,
his
I
thought.
mean,
I
And he
agree.
thought, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I had like a penis nose for two shots? And
yeah,
And that's the
and
joke.
the prop man just kind of sighs and says, "Well, I'm getting paid by the hour."
Okay, yeah, I guess. I don't know. But, like, I think if you're good.
imagine Demi Moore though coming from Ghost. I mean, God.
I personally think. I watched A Few Good Men recently and I kind of mixed opinions about that movie. I think we can all agree she was the weakest link in that cast, and she's somehow even worse with worse material. Shocker. It's almost like if you don't give certain actors something to work with, it doesn't work. But that's something that really holds back the film too. Is that you have something like The Evil Dead 2, and it's this wacky, crazy, psychotic, dark comedy horror film. But that film wouldn't have worked without someone as charismatic as Bruce Campbell leading the movie. When you have a crazy, dark comedy led by two of the blandest actors working in Hollywood in the 90s, it doesn't work. Like, you need, like, those charismatic leads and actors with actual responses to all of the crazy shit that's happening beyond just awkward dumb stares and the occasional goofy face. Like, they're so wooden and bland. And I feel like if they were taken off the movie, not that much would change, really. Like, they felt very inconsequential to all the nonsense that was happening.
I mean, I don't like Demi Moore was never like, I don't know. She was never like a nothing against her, but I mean, she was not like like an amazing. She wasn't Meryl Streep or anything. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I kind of agree, unfortunately. It's nothing against her, it's just she
and
didn't have it.
she's not a bad actress, but I mean, she was in Striptease and she was in, Ghost, and it was like a lot of what she had to do was she had very strong material, and I hate to say it, but she was naked. Like,
Yeah,
like,
that's kind
a
of why
lot
she
of
was
what they
hired.
did-
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it was very erotic work, and I mean, not to kind of get into the male gaze, but I mean, she's a very attractive woman, and I think they kind of cast her around that. And here it's like, this isn't erotic, which thank God. I don't want to see what that nose does. I mean, this is so totally out of her wheelhouse. And it's like, it's not, the material isn't there. So it's like, of course, she's going to look worse for being in this,
Pat, you're back.
He did. No, he's just listening until we get to movie 43.
Okay, of course.
I think
So
John. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I will say John Candy is probably easily the best part about this movie. Like, he was always
100%.
just like a naturally charismatic, like likable, funny guy.
He grounds a film somehow.
Absolutely,
And-
he's the only one who does.
And and it's weird because he's cast against type himself. Like, you never look at John Candy and think, oh, this is the straight-laced cop. I mean, never mind the fact that he does a dual role here, which Dan Aykroyd also pulls off a dual role, and I'm wondering if that was maybe just no one really wanted to be in this.
Yeah, I did get those vibes at times. Like, there were times when, like, the leads were looking at the camera like, really? Like, are you kidding me? Just, like, kind of glancing the camera every now and again and looking away. There's a movie later that gives much stronger vibes of that, but we will get to that. And I don't know, like, I feel like, again, if this was, like, a short skit or, like, a segment on Creepshow, I feel like I would have been a lot nicer to it as, like, this crazy, weird 90s thing. It's like, just cut out the 90s bullshit rap sequence, cut out some of the dirty jokes that don't land, cut out the bland protagonists, cast interesting comedic leads. Cast like Steve Martin and, I don't know, like Meryl Streep was in like some good comedies around the time. Cast her in the movie instead of Demi Moore. Like, it's weirdly ambitious, but at the same time, I think that ambition kind of holds it back.
Well, okay,
it's an ambition that doesn't go anywhere.
Well,
that's my biggest issue with it.
Here's the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that this is a good movie, and I don't even know if I'd argue it's so bad it's good. But one thing that I will say about it is that we are still talking about it, and it's like
we're only talking about it because you brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I thankfully never watched this movie up until this point. I never got a 5-minute rap sequence.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, Red Letter Media did a video on it.
Of course they
it's
did.
kind of
it's right up the wheelhouse.
It's getting this cult following, shall I say? And here's the thing:
I think it's a more of a cult passive musing. I don't know if it's a following. Just sort of like, oh, that's a movie I never heard of. I wonder what it's about. And then I watch it, and then I'm like, I forgot I watched it.
Oh no, this is very unforgettable. Come on, here's my thing. It's like, it's not perfect, it's not great, but goddamn it, it's Dan Aykroyd at his most Dan Aykroyd.
This is true.
I don't find him that funny in the movie, though.
Hold on, because I do have a point here. It's like, I would rather watch this or, The Room or like a Fateful Findings or something where it is someone's singular vision, whether they have all the right vision or not. Like, I would rather watch that than another movie that we're going to get into, which is just so soulless and corporate, and it has no vision and nothing interesting to say. And you can fault this movie for a lot of things, but you can't fault it for trying.
I'd agree with that, and only that. But I can't even agree that... I thought Dan Aykroyd was the worst part about the movie. I just found him really obnoxious and annoying. Like, he was just trying way too hard to be funny.
Character, though, I mean,
his character sucks. Then the character that he wrote and he acted sucks.
He has a penis for a nose.
That's not funny. You need to do something with that. That's not funny enough itself. You need a charismatic actor reacting to it instead of Demi Moore just glancing awkwardly to the side of the camera. I need an actual reaction to that for it to be fucking funny. You don't like the scene in 12th Night with the yellow pants?
With penis nose with Hugh Jackman in movie 43, and you got something there.
Okay, you know why the scene in Young Frankenstein where, like, they mentioned the melons and the girl says thank you is so funny? Because the doctor gives a confused face. He reacts to that comment, and that's what makes that scene funny. A scene being sexy in of itself and horny, we will get to that in the next movie, is not funny. Reacting to comedy is funny, and when you get 3 stilted, awkward actors and one kind of funny actor reacting to things, it's not enough. And this film just ate away at me. At first, I was willing to give it a chance, but near the end, Mark, I was just like, okay, just hit me with that 90s beatbox and kill me.
Here's the thing, though. I was willing to be much more forgiving to this film until they faked out the first ending.
Oh, that too. And it
There's
just kept going on and
so
on.
here's the thing. There's an ending where it's like they escape the monster mansion, which is on top of a coal mine, which is inside of a junkyard, and
And it's like finally the movie's all going to hell.
and it's like, okay, so they Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, they get on top of this train car and they hold each other and they embrace and they're riding off into the sunset, and it's like, okay, roll credits. This is like, I can be pretty forgiving towards this. And then it's like, no, they go to the police and they get an entire army of cops to go back to the Transylvanian Valkenvania vampire castle in the middle of a junkyard, which is on top of an old coal mine because somebody screwed over Dan Aykroyd's character 30 years ago, which has nothing to do with the greater plot. And then they go back and it's like, oh, all the cops are in on it. And so then the entire, junkyard blows up, and then they ride off into the sunset again. And you're like, oh, okay, this is the end of it. And then it's like, nope, we're in an apartment and they're watching the news.
Yeah, like the pacing is so
like-
sluggish.
It's like Return of the King fucking.
Oh my god. At least Return of the King like earned it in some way. Like you're interested to see where those characters end up. But this is just like, this does not, it's an hour and, here's a funny thing. I looked this up.
I like that initial ending because it's like finally it's all going to hell.
It's
like,
finally over, yeah.
Where it was meant to be.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This movie is only an hour and 34 minutes. The Blues Brothers is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Which film feels like 2 hours and 15 minutes? Really think about that for a second. Did you guess Nothing But Trouble? Because you guessed right. That movie feels way longer than Blues Brothers. I think it is that case of like, yeah, the producers really reined in Dan Aykroyd and just like this film has no structure to it. It's just a bunch of nonsense that happens for 90 minutes and then it ends. Like, Young Frankenstein had structure. Bodies, Spies, Bodies had structure. This is just an SNL skit that Dan Aykroyd thought was so funny to put into a full movie. And then I had to watch it for this stupid podcast.
Well,
You're welcome.
It's not the. Yes, you're welcome. It was also the cinematic debut of Tupac Shakur as an actor.
He deserved better.
R.I.P.
Oh, yeah, but you deserve better than this movie. If only you were in something like, I don't know, 8 Mile. Yeah, that would have been a lot better. But what would you guys rate it? I'm done talking about this fucking movie.
A 6.9.
What? Oh, come on.
Come on,
You're
man.
fucking with me. You're fucking with me.
No, I mean, look, it's trying. I admire the
It
hell
tries,
out
but
of it.
okay. I respect your wrong opinion.
An attempt was certainly made.
There was an attempt, which is more than our
I'm
next
going
movie.
I'm going to impale myself on the fence and give it a 5.
Oh my god!
You're bleeding out at this point. You've just impaled yourself on there so many times you got liver damage. Okay.
Ian, think about.
Here's the
our
thing.
next
I
movie.
was going to give it a 4 out of 10. But the more I think about this movie, the less I like it. Yes, it's ambitious.
Come on.
Yes, John
Compared
Candy is
to the
kind of
next
funny.
movie?
Oh, compared to
Come
the next movie, that's not saying anything. A pile of shit is more ambitious than the next movie, alright? Anyways, Nothing But Trouble gets a 3.4 out of 10. It tries. John
But
Candy is
you-
kind of funny. The sets look nice. That's
You
about
gotta
it.
give some headroom for the next movie. I mean, well,
What
where are we
would
gonna
you
go?
say that watching this movie for the podcast was nothing but trouble?
Yes. Yes, I would. No hesitation. And I know...
I
yeah, I'm sorry.
I will say I binge watching this and then almost immediately followed that up with Pink Flamingos afterwards. And I did that like last Monday, and then I held off watching the next film for like almost the entire week afterwards.
And what is the next film? Well, Tad Brock will be joining us for this discussion because I will be introducing movie 43. So this was a one of the movies of all time, released in 2013. What's it about? You know, it's kind of like a series of SNL skits tied under one movie. It kind of tries to present itself as this anti-comedy where I believe I'm trying to remember the actor's name, but he's always been like in B grade action movies. He was in Pandorum as well. I'm trying to think of the actor's name, just looking him up real quick. Anyways, it's about him, a character played by him and somebody else trying to get their movie made, but the studio keeps refusing all of their ideas, and the ideas play on these different skits. I can't possibly imagine what that's referring to, but we'll leave that alone for a minute. And all of the skits, the catch is they're kind of like these dirty, raunchy, silly skits, almost like something you'd see out of like Family Guy or maybe Adult Swim in the early 2000s. The catch is you get to see all of your favorite actors in this movie. We're talking about Hugh Jackman, Gerard Butler, Terrence Howard, Johnny Knoxville. Emma Stone is in this.
Kate Winslet, Liev Schreiber, Naomi Watts,
Chris Pratt and his girlfriend.
Halle Berry. Yeah.
How did they get all of those actors? Let me tell you how they got those actors. Essentially, they begged. Well, at first, they essentially begged.
Somebody had some dirt on these actors and was like, "Hey, you don't want these pictures leaked out, do you? You're gonna do our movie."
Yeah, I think it was something like that, but it was also.
So I actually know a little bit about this. Should I jump in?
Yeah, you know what? That's fair enough. I think they begged like Hugh Jackman to be in it for like a bit part, and to the point where they just kept annoying him until he joined, and then other actors were like, "Wait, Hugh Jackman's in this? Wait, Kate Winslet's in this? Wait, Emma Stone is in this? I'd love to do a scene with Emma Stone." But that's what I think happened. Let's get some other conspiracy theories. We'll start with Stephen.
So basically, one of the producers, God, I can't even talk, and I don't want to talk about this movie. One of the producers cornered Hugh Jackman at a wedding and said, "Hey, we're doing this movie. It's just a quick little sketch. You're gonna, poke some fun at yourself. We'll pay you $800. That's right. Hugh Jackman got $800 to do this movie.
And it was worth every fucking penny.
Oh, no.
Because you're going to get paid. Hey, you're going to get paid $800 and you're going to make it all back on the back end. And so they got Hugh Jackman because he's a nice guy.
Read this. Yeah, it's the same reason Keanu Reeves is in a bunch of shitty movies, because he's such a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so he gets Kate Winslet involved. They took this. By the way, that first scene with Hugh Jackman, who has testicles on his chin, that was shot 4 years before the rest of the movie.
No shit.
Boy, was it worth the wait. They
took that as a proof of concept. And so then they would go to all of these other actors, Emma Stone, Liev Schreiber, Naomi Watts, and it's like, "Hey, we'll pay you $800 and you can get paid on the back end. Come on, you can't poke fun at yourself. Hugh Jackman has testicles on his neck. Are you not as cool as Hugh Jackman?" And they literally bullied and guilted all of these celebrities into being in this steaming pile of shit.
And
hey, Chris Pratt, you can be with your wife. Yeah.
Literally, that's it.
I mean, if there's any good that came out of this movie, it's the fact that now we know for 100% fact that everyone in Hollywood is full of shit, and that fucking all these actors out there who've won awards and they're all like, "I don't do it for the fame. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the art." Bullshit. You do it for the money, and apparently it's only $800 to get you to dance.
Well,
dance.
they no.
I think some of them were trying to be nice, and some
money.
of them were also promised that other actors would be in it. That's why Kieran Culkin was involved, because he's like, holy shit, like, I got to do a scene with Emma Stone? Like, I love Emma Stone, I'll do it. $800?
Well,
Sure, anything to act with Emma
It
Stone.
felt weirdly like I don't know if they were doing Scott Pilgrim versus the World at the time, but it was just funny seeing those two together.
Yeah, that was
In
probably the
movie as well.
funniest bit. A la, it got one chuckle out of me, just because, like, they kind of
That's-
make it work. They kind of deliver it in a funny way. That's the only bit that got a chuckle out.
I laughed
Well-
at this movie out of spite. Like it was trying so hard to be funny. It was kind of amusing. But I
Well,
will say, like watching the film, what I didn't know was like the main plot that kind of stitches all these skits together, and it's like this guy tries to go viral on YouTube or view this tube, whatever the fuck they fake website they call it. And it's like him holding a dart in his mouth and his friend throwing a dartboard at him, and his younger brother pranks him by making it look like it's going viral with millions of views, and then he's like, "Ha, loser! You only got like 2 views," and this makes him so mad and so riled that he has to get him back, and by getting him back, it's helping him try to find this movie that doesn't exist on a bunch of government websites and places on the dark web, and it kind of all unfolds from there. And I thought, wow, this almost like predates internet humor. To an extent.
Well,
And it's like
so
this is an absolute garbage pile train wreck of a film, and I loved every minute of it. Ironically,
What? Come on.
oh,
I'm
glad
going
you got
insane.
that.
oh my
I'm going
God.
insane.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Oh,
done.
man.
I'm out. I'm gonna head out. See ya.
All right. Back it up, boy.
I said ironically.
Yeah, I didn't even enjoy this movie ironically. It was
I-
just painful to watch. It was like I was slowly
no,
getting
I mean,
tortured.
I got out of it exactly what I was expecting to, and that was an absolute garbage pile of a movie. Which I don't know. I was dealing with some real like tough stuff, so I kind of needed that at that point in time. So
Okay.
Well, here's my thing. I mean, it's obvious they're going for kind of like Kentucky Fried Movie. That was a 70s film that came out with very similar, like, kind of a raunchy sketch anthology of comedy, parody and all this stuff. And it's like, it was at the time that was a very controversial film because it was so raunchy and because it was so crass. And I think the difference between this and Kentucky Fried Movie is that Kentucky Fried Movie was funny.
Yep.
This movie is crass and gross, and it subverts your
it
expectations
tries
and all
so
that.
hard,
But it's
It
not.
and it got
tries
so
hard not
far,
to.
It's
but at
not.
the end, it doesn't even matter.
Doesn't
No,
even
it's
matter.
so unfunny. I mean, it is painfully unfunny, and
It's funny that
I-
we can be funnier than this movie in this podcast.
We have been on this
No,
episode. Yeah.
100%. Like, I honestly feel bad for most of the people involved with this. Like, Trey Parker and Matt Stone agreed to be a part of this, but they got out as soon as they read a full script. Richard Gere tried every way possible to have his name pulled from the project. He wanted no part in it. Like,
Yeah,
I just
the
feel
whole iBabe shit.
Oh,
I
guess who?
feel
Sorry,
bad
real
for
quick. Guess who directed the iBabe segment? Guess. Elizabeth
Brett Ratner.
Banks.
Oh,
And they looked at that and they thought, this woman should reboot Charlie's Angels.
yeah. Well, I'm probably the only person I know who is not looking forward to Cocaine Bear for exactly this reason.
I know.
I don't think she's funny, and
She
I hate
definitely
to
thinks
say
she
that.
is, yeah.
she thinks she's hilarious, yes, but it's like, I don't
She
know.
can be a
This
good
is
actress, though. Like, there is some moment in the movie she's done that she's like good in.
Like what?
I
This isn't one of them.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, this is definitely
let's
not
leave
one
it
of
at
them.
that.
Yeah, and she directed herself in that segment.
No, she didn't direct herself.
Oh,
Wait,
was
she
she?
in that segment?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in
the
that
cat
segment. She was in the iBabe segment, wasn't she?
No, she was in the cat segment.
Oh, yeah, that's
That
right.
was
The
written
animated
and
cat, the one that's
directed.
directed by James Gunn of all people.
I'm sorry, I was
And
confused. You may find this hard to believe, but this is movie 43, and I was confused.
well, James Gunn, I'm glad you bring this up because the cat sketch was the only thing that got like a slight chuckle out of me. I thought it was kind of funny, and I mean, he's definitely come a long way, and it's funny we're
Oh, yeah,
talking
see.
about this because he just announced that he's going to be taking over the head of DC Comics, and there was a whole announcement video today of like he's going to be writing this new Superman movie, and they're moving forward with all this exciting stuff, and it's like it reminds me of that story of the executive who met with Peter Jackson to talk about Lord of the Rings, and he looks over and there's a Meet the Feebles poster on the wall. It's like, what have we fucking done? But no, I mean, this is. I would like. I and there was a YouTube video that I watched, and it was actually fascinating. There's a guy named In Frame Out. Shout out to him. He did a whole video essay called "How to Make the Worst Comedy of All Time," and I think this absolutely, deserves that title. But he was talking about that, like, this film doesn't understand what a joke is. It's like there's no characterization, there's no, expectation, subversion, and payoff. This film literally just has subversion. The entire joke is that Hugh Jackman has testicles on his neck. That
that's
is
it.
the entirety of the joke.
Shitty CGI testicles.
And what's her name is the only one that seems to notice them, and that's
the joke. And it
that's the
literally
joke.
cuts off.
All was
mid-script.
missing was the penis nose.
Well,
That's all it needed.
no, and here's the thing: I don't believe for a second that this is an anti-comedy. I don't.
Some people
think
made that
this
theory,
is
but it
supposed
is
to be
not.
unfunny. I don't think that it's. I think that's giving it too much credit. I feel like
Absolutely.
the people that were involved in this thought they were making like peak comedy, and I think
Okay,
this is.
I'm almost scared to ask this question. What was the budget for this film?
Oh, let me look it up. Let's see. All right, get ready.
God, if
Movie.
it's over 10 million, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Movie 43 budget.
6 million.
What?
6 million?
It has a higher
6
budget
million.
than The Lighthouse.
And its box office was 32.4.
It was a
Oh, my
financial
heart.
success.
It was.
Oh no!
Richard Roper said it is the Citizen Kane of awful.
I agree.
Mark Kermode actually said, just don't watch it. Don't even watch it. Ironically, he said, quote, "You don't need to step in dog shit to know it's bad."
And don't recommend it for a podcast. And what'd you do,
No,
Ted?
I mean, and that's the
Yeah,
thing. It's
no.
like,
I watched this shit when it came out because my fucking dumbass friends dragged me to go see this shit.
Was Daryl one of those dumbass friends?
No, he wasn't.
oh, thank God. Okay,
But fuck
we
him.
can still be
Goddamn,
friends with
like,
him.
if I have to suffer because I know this movie exists and I had to sit through it and watch it. You know what?
Well, this is
Suffer together, guys.
Hey,
this is
Let's
what I
bond
was.
in our suffering.
that's not very
Let's
nice.
bond.
That's against the Geneva
This is
Convention.
This is what I was talking about, though. It's like you look at something like The Room, or you look at Fateful Findings, or Nothing But Trouble, or one of these films. It's like they're so bad in a weirdly entertaining way because there's so much passion and vision, and it doesn't all work, but at least it's there. And like this film has nothing. Like this has nothing interesting to say, has nothing interesting to add. It's just so. I mean, there are literally shots that are copy pasted I don't know if you guys noticed it, but so Devin and I, it sounds like Devin and I watched the unrated extended cut.
Oh no.
No, is that the one with the short from Bob Odenkirk?
No, this was
what?
Bob Odenkirk directed a short that was cut from the film. But
No.
apparently they put it back in for a while.
Well, so the way that
No.
this was explained,
Which one was that?
Yeah.
Did I see it?
No.
I don't know about that one, but I know we saw, because I think the theatrical cut is what is it, like Dennis Quaid is pitching a bunch of different movies, but I saw this cut where it's like a bunch of kids on the dark web and they're trying to find this. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
So I think that had to be like an alternate cut.
Was that not in the original cut?
So
yeah. Ian,
Bob
how did
Odenkirk-
yours go?
So okay. Basically, the only thing that wasn't in the original cut, I didn't see the basketball one in the original cut. I watched that like on YouTube or something along those lines. And I don't know what else I'm missing, but what's the Bob Odenkirk one? Help me out here.
Bob Odenkirk's one is he wrote and directed it. Ouch. It's called Find Our Daughter. It stars Julianne Moore and Tony Shalhoub.
I did not see that. Julianne Moore
No,
and what the? You're giving me a brain aneurysm. This isn't real. This can't be real.
And Bob Odenkirk also has in it as a private investigator.
What the fuck? I mean, he's probably the best part about it, but
Daughter.
no, she is in it. No,
Oh, God.
why? She's oh my god, from The Big Lebowski to movie 43.
I mean, she was in
movie
43.
43, the Better Call
She's
Saul,
been
I
in.
mean,
Yeah, but I'm talking about like pure comedies, like pure.
I'm just
comedies.
saying she's like one of the greatest actresses of her generation. Like
I
I
agree.
think she's
Yeah.
so underrated,
and
and it's just like this is why I hate this film. Is it's so cynical, and it
it's
traps
lazy.
these people. It's so lazy, and it traps these people who we all have like such an admiration for as like fans of film, that these people are so nice and they're so like wholesome, down to earth people that they'll agree to do this shit. And it's like this film is just slimy. I mean, it's so cynical and mean spirited.
Oh
like
my god.
not even just the film itself, but like the story of its production. Like there's just something so like just I mean it's sickening. It really
It's
is.
gross.
Like
Yeah.
it's gross. It is.
Devin,
Like,
I'm gonna say something else that's gonna give you a brain aneurysm. The Bob Odenkirk special also stars Tony Shalhoub, aka the engineer from Galaxy Quest.
That's a hell of a thing.
So I think it's probably Shaloub.
Monk.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I mispronounced it.
Typical Canadian.
Okay, should we talk about like which segment was the worst? Just to get that off the way.
I don't think we should talk
What,
about
you
this
want to compare
anymore.
shit with other shit? Like,
Yeah, which segment was the worst? Let's go.
Oh,
like if you had to pick a worse one.
So I went the extra mile and I ranked these from quote unquote best to worst. So would anyone be interested in hearing my ranking?
Yeah, go for it.
I actually liked the homeschooled one. I don't know if that hit home for you, Stephen, or not.
So,
but
so
Steve,
here's my
why did
ranking.
you put more effort into this review than the filmmakers made in making this movie?
That's a good question.
Like, they don't
Good
deserve this
question.
from you, Steve. They don't deserve this from you.
So Beason, homeschooled, Victory's Glory, Happy Birthday, Veronica, Machine Kids, Robin Speed Dating, I Babe, Middle School Date, The Catch, Truth or Dare, and The Proposition. That's my ranking.
Oh god, I'd say the worst one by far for me was
The Proposition.
just the Hugh Jackman one. in general. I don't know if that's the proposition or not, but the Hugh Jackman.
No,
That's
the
the catch.
proposition was the one with Chris Pratt.
Oh God, yeah, that one was. I mean, so many of them are so awful, but that was just like, yeah, I want you to poop on me, and that's the joke. Like, so many skits are just the joke, and that's it. Like, there's no interesting reactions. There's no interesting twists or turns, like in a good skit. Like, they don't go anywhere.
It has the subversion, but there's no payoff. There's no execution. There's no character.
Exactly. Like, what makes the
this
best
film
skits?
doesn't understand what a joke is. It can't be funny. It can't be a comedy because it doesn't understand what a fucking joke is.
Yeah.
And here's the worst part about this steaming pile of shit is that the guy who directed this went on to win an Academy Award.
For what?
He was the
Which one?
producer of Green Book.
Oh, Peter
Wow.
Farley.
Terribly.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That makes me so mad. Like, as if it wasn't bad enough that Green Book won fucking Best Picture.
Yeah.
This is somehow, it's somehow even worse knowing that this is like
The kickstart to his career.
this is wow. No, it wasn't even the kickstart. He did some funny shit in the 90s.
Well,
I mean, he did There's Something About Mary. That was funny. He did Dumb and Dumber. That was kind of funny. What the fuck happened? What is this?
Like, let me just give like a good example of a skit. Like, here's something
his
like
head crawled up his own ass. That's what happened.
yeah, like here's like what this movie could have learned if we're going to be like a little more constructive from the criticism. There's this skit on Monty Python involving security training, and John Cleese says, "All right, I have a banana. Come at me with a banana." And if this was a movie 43 skit, it would all just be guys coming at him in silly ways with a banana, and that would be the skit. That would be it. That would be the joke. But because Monty Python was written by people that know what they're doing, they subvert that expectation by having a third guy come at him, and then he pulls out a fucking gun and shoots him. And it's really funny because it's like a subversion of expectations. Like, it builds on the expectations and then twists upon it, and then the rest of it deals with like the shock reactions of what just happened.
And it really that's the absurdity, saying I've taken the banana out of his hand after I shot him, thus disarming him.
And then I eat the banana. Yeah.
Funny. I mean, you look at Victory's Glory, though. It's like they repeat the joke 15 times.
Yeah, because that's just the epitome of bad American comedy. It's like they think it's funny if you repeat the joke.
Peter and Bobby Farley were the guys behind Dumb and Dumber back in the day. Shallow Hal, Me, Myself, and Irene, Something About Mary, and then this shit.
All of those movies were kind of funny.
Dumb and Dumber was kind of funny. Yeah.
I unironically really like There's Something About Mary. That's a funny movie. Matt Dillon is phenomenal in that movie. I don't. This movie is not worth the breath that it takes to talk about it. Like, I can't stress this enough. Don't even watch this. Don't watch this out of morbid curiosity.
Please.
It's so bad.
Oh, don't watch it just to spite Stephen.
Yeah, don't watch it to spite me.
It's not even funny in like an ironic sort of way. It's not. This isn't The Room. This isn't Fateful Findings. This is the most cynical, mean-spirited, corporate, soulless. I cannot think of enough bad things to say about it, and I would, God, I would give this a negative number if I could. Holy shit! Just fuck everybody that tricked these people into being in it. Like, just oh my God.
$100. Let's try to sting.
Yeah, and like this whole movie feels like a bunch of unused skits from SNL that were replaced for something funnier. Like, they're filmed that way, they're written that way, they're performed that way.
Be honest,
it's on par with that. This is a $6 million movie, a higher budget than Clerks, a higher budget than Eraserhead, a higher budget than The Lighthouse. A $6 million movie, and this was the best they could come up with in the writing department.
dude, let's.
I gotta wonder,
mean,
like,
let's
where
not
the
insult Saturday Night Live like that. Holy shit!
No, yeah, no, I mean these
like,
are
the worst
unused for
part of
SNL because they replaced it with funnier stuff. Sorry, go on.
no,
I don't even think
the worst part of this fucking movie, and now knowing that the budget is $6 million, is all I can think about is just like, God, what if that fucking money went to somebody who actually like cared and gave a shit? Like, what if one of us had $6 million to make a movie?
Yeah.
Like, but no,
Yeah.
it went to this.
No, and I
And it
mean,
made $35 million.
Yeah, because
And
people are dumb
I
enough to
agree
see it
with
for the
you.
celebrities.
No, and here's the thing. I agree with you, Tad, and I don't want it to come across like we're salty because we didn't get to make our movie. It's just, I mean, a fucking trained chimpanzee could make something better than this. Like,
A trained chimpanzee could
this
go to
is
space.
fucking
That's better than this.
I mean, I would rather watch a movie about a chimpanzee in space. That sounds
Yeah, it sounds
far
pretty
more
dope.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it. It's an animated movie. It's called Chimps in Space.
Space chimps, yeah. I forgot about that.
Space.
That sounds so much better. I think what would really sound better right about now is a bullet in my skull.
Jesus.
Can we rate this, please?
Happily.
And never speak of it.
I think you'd be generous if I gave it a 4.3.
Oh, dude.
I think I'd be generous if I was giving you a 3.4. I'm not gonna give this film a rating. I'm just going to put it up on the tie it up to the tree, tar and feather it, and say you've been convicted of assholism. That's my rating.
They should be convicted for war crimes and hatred against humanity.
Devin, I'm kind of curious, Devin. Have you ever given a film like less than 3 stars?
King Kong vs. Godzilla, you gave it a -2.
Really?
Yep.
the original one, not the remake.
Yeah, the original one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were not digging that movie.
It was the American cut of it, and I was starting to wonder what I was doing with my life at that point.
Somebody gave me that on DVD, and I still haven't watched it.
And Pathfinder also.
But was this better or worse than that movie?
I had some laughs out of spite. I don't know.
Pathfinder's better.
I'm convinced. I'm gonna convict it of assholism because it's a Pink Flamingo reference.
Yeah, convicted of hate crimes. This gets a 0.5 out of 10. It gets a 0.5 for the single chuckle I had in the entire movie. That's it.
Yeah. I was gonna try to I was gonna do a whole bit where I was gonna try to defend it just to see your reaction, and I kind of did it there, but then I couldn't get convinced.
No, you can't even defend this ironically. I mean, I tried to make a case for Nothing But Trouble, and I mean that's a movie that I think you could at least say
it tried.
They tried. Like,
yeah,
this is a movie that doesn't even try.
Nope.
And I'm giving it a negative 10 out of 10.
The thing that hurts the most is it succeeded financially.
Well,
I mean,
what a pile of shit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff Goldblum. This was one big pile of shit.
Here's the thing. I already gave it my rating, 1 out of 10 stars. I give it a 1 star just for the animator who had to do the animation on the fucking cat. Like, bravo. I wish your work went to something better.
Oh yeah, the cat just.
But not only am I giving this that low of a rating, but every movie in existence, I want to bump that rating up by half a star just by not seeing this.
Just out of spite.
Every movie in existence, from now on, like, it just bump that shit up a bit. You know, The Lion King, 3 stars. All right, 3.5 stars.
Morbius.
Morbius, 1.5
I will say,
stars. Congratulations, you're now at 2 stars. Like,
there you go. If you know, the one thing about this film, if you are gonna watch it, I think the most appropriate way to watch it is on some crack website like 123 Movies, because this feels like this movie was made for that environment.
oh, please
like this.
don't watch this on Netflix. Yeah, like,
No,
please don't.
this
don't
movie
give these
this
people
movie
any
deserves.
money. Don't encourage them.
This movie deserves to be pirated. This deserves to not make its
Oh
return on
no,
investment.
I'm glad you brought
I
this
mean,
up.
it already
I would
has.
way rather watch Morbius than this. 100%.
I got some ironic
Unironically.
laughs of Morbius.
Yeah, no, unironically, I would way rather watch Morbius.
I would rather watch Pathfinder than this movie. That's how bad this movie is.
You guys know.
I would rather watch Pathfinder, the movie I gave a 1 out of 10. The first movie on this channel to give a 1 out of 10.
God, I might rather watch an Ari Aster film than this shit. Holy cow.
Ooh, that's low.
Shots fired.
Very low. Shots fired.
Uh,
That was one of the episodes of our time. Thank you for joining in for that shit show, Tad.
Yeah,
What's-
you're welcome. I mean, thank you guys for suffering with me now. Now we all have shared trauma.
Yeah, and I will
Alright,
plan
thank
your
you.
murder.
What's the bonding?
This reminds me. Did anyone see the movie Year One?
Yes.
no.
In
Batman
theaters.
I remember watching that in theaters, and it was like, a movie I didn't know anything about going in, but it looked like it was gonna be a fun time. And I remember thinking then, wow, are movies bad now? Like that was the first movie I watched that I didn't like, really like right away, and I really hated it. And I'm like, wow, movies are bad now. And I'm glad I didn't see this also, because I would have lost all hope for humanity.
I can think of 43 different reasons why you should never watch this movie, and one of them involves, I would rather fucking chop my dick off than watch this fucking movie again. So
This is a great
Wow.
film if you're into self mutilation.
yes, that's true.
If you're into masochism, this this is a great litmus test.
Also,
I just say though the one skit that actually did get kind of a laugh out of me, and I'm being generous here, was the Leprechaun one.
What made you laugh? What broke you?
the fucking leprechauns. This doesn't remind me of the movie Leprechaun, and it's like these guys are nastier somehow.
Just reminds me of a
I'm
better
a
movie.
leprechaun.
I just watched Leprechaun at that point. I mean, hell, watch Leprechaun in the Hood.
I unironically want to see that movie.
Same.
Unironically, yes. This has been an experience.
Fun episode.
Tune in Thursday, February 14th, where we'll be looking at a history of love. It's our Black History Month / Valentine's Day episode. You can join Ian and Devin and special co-host Bernard as you guys talk about love and basketball, if Beale Street could talk, and the inspection. And to all of you, I love you. Please don't ever make me watch this shit again.
Yes, please, Tad. I don't know what I did to you to deserve this, but
Oh wow.
Hey,
Good night,
now that you've
everybody.
seen real shit, everything else will look better in comparison.
that's
So.
true. I'll give you
And
that.
stay
Oh, yeah.
tuned for Conan O'Brien, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Have a good night, guys.
been an experience. Good night.